guys. Hopefully you guys are on the right spot. I am John, manager of teacher success at italki. I got my italki shirt on, guys. Ooh, that light's a little
Mhm.
bright.
Hi,
So guys, what
John.
I'm going to be doing, what I'm going to be doing today is a little AMA. So welcome to the AMA. If you guys don't know how this works, I'm going to be answering various questions that you guys might have. Since there are just a few of us, I'm okay with folks, just unmuting and maybe asking a question. If we get a lot of people, I'll start using the chat, but no problem to just kind of hang out and chat with folks. Um, Ask away if you have a question. Otherwise, by the way, I am at italki head office. It's a little hard to tell. I couldn't find a room with a nice wall. There's a lot of meeting rooms, but they were all booked
Yeah, so
today.
where is italki? I mean, like, where are you right now?
So I am actually at the head office here in Shanghai. So if you guys aren't sure, yes, Italki is based in Shanghai, but obviously a global company. Nice. Cool.
Yeah. So what is it that you when you mean when you said you're like head of teacher success? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of a complicated question. I'll try to cover it for us today. But what I look at is basically how to help teachers be as successful as possible on italki. And that means actually a lot of different things. So we explore new ideas, new products, um, like, if you guys are aware, if you've been on italki, we're starting this podcast thing. So I've been working with teachers on developing podcasts and looking at how we can help teachers with that and getting more and more teachers on board with that sort of thing. We look at like also, helping teachers understand their italki business, right? So a lot of times there's a little bit of a confusion in that, like, oh, I work for italki as a teacher. Sorta, but not really, right? You actually work for yourself and it's your business. So a lot of what we try to do is try to
Fair
understand.
play, sir. Fair play. What we might do.
There we go. Sorry. Try to understand your guys' business for you, and then give you suggestions. Try to help you out. Try to see what's going on in the marketplace to get you guys the most benefit for being on italki. Um, so we do have a question in the chat. I'm going to say, does italki provide materials to teachers to assist them with teaching a language? We don't actually. So part of the reason why is we have very many different teachers who are teaching lots of different languages. So it's sort of difficult to have material as well for teachers. With that too, a lot of times, the whole italki model is based on like a one-to-one, and the idea is that teachers can provide a customized lesson to their student. And so what we try to make sure is to allow that customization. And if we provided materials, there's potential for that sort of customization to go away. We don't always know what's best for one teacher and one student. That's why we try to have great teachers and help them as much as we can, but we really want them to be able to develop materials to suit their students' need. Nice. You also involved in the application process of teachers. Yes, in a certain way that we are, in that as I manage the team, part of the team does focus on, teacher, processing and how a person can come from not a teacher to a teacher and what sort of qualifications and what sort of guidelines do we sort of adhere to when we're accepting teachers. Mhm. So in that way, yes, also involved in the teacher application process. Nice. We also do a lot with our product team developing various tools and things like that for teachers to use. We also work with our whole marketing team and like helping our marketing team understand what teachers and what are our teachers like in order to sort of better market them to the wider world. So we sort of have our fingers in a lot of different things. Nice. Oh, yeah, okay, so let's see. Looks like we've got a fair few people in here. There's 9 of us. There's 9 of us now. Now, guys, of the 9 of us, who here is a teacher, and who maybe even is a teacher on italki? All I see is a sea of black. But if there are some italki teachers, I'd love to, know. Yeah, Susanna. Susanna
Yeah,
raised
it's
her
me.
hand. Yeah, Susanna's an italki teacher. Great. Obviously, there are a fair few of you, so I don't know everyone. I do know a few people here and there. Of course, I've met some teachers in the course of working with italki. Now, are other people in the audience italki, or not italki, but teachers? Yeah, no.
I taught English for
Oh, okay.
for 40 years.
Oh, nice, nice, Linda. That's quite the.
Where on italki? Yeah.
No, not on italki. In private institutions, in public institutions, and also as a private tutor.
Nice.
Nice.
Nice, awesome. I myself, guys, just so you know a little bit about who heads the italki team here, I have been a teacher now for about, gosh, 15 years in various different stages of what it is to be a teacher. 15 years ago, online was sort of not a thing. So when I started teaching, we were all in the classroom. I started out actually as a second language teacher, actually here in China. And then I've been a public school teacher. I've been a private institution, an international school teacher. I've done English. My degree is actually in biology. I have my master's in education, in particular with natural science education. So I've been heavily involved in education for most of my adult life. And then, a little while ago, I got the opportunity to sort of bring my skills and my understanding uh, to italki to try to better understand. One of the reasons why they like someone with an education background is I can really sort of bring those experiences to italki. So, product guys, they know how to make products and they know how to make tools and stuff like that, but they don't always, know or understand how a teacher or a student might use a tool or might use something in the classroom. And so part of what I try to bring to italki is sort of that understanding of, well, as a teacher, this is how I would probably see to use it, and things like that. What are some considerations that you have when you say not all great applications can be admitted, even if they meet application criteria? I've read quite a few times on several support and review channels, if not related to italki, IG, ED Trustpilot. Yeah, there's a lot of different criteria that we do when we are choosing teachers. Some of that has to deal with what we see students sort of wanting. We try to sort of balance what students are looking for and what teachers we have. Usually if an application is, hey, it meets all the criteria, it's going to sort of meet what students want. But with that as well, we do try to understand our marketplace. I know that's not a very clear answer, but basically, yeah, we try to sort of understand, well, what sort of students do we have on italki and what are they looking for in a teacher? And that might help us make a decision if we need to make a decision over one teacher or another. Yeah.
And maybe could you give some case examples to illustrate that?
Just an example off the top of my head is like, in certain languages, when we're learning certain languages, students tend to gravitate and focus a lot more on someone who speaks that language natively rather than a second language. So that might help us make a decision. So if we have teacher A and teacher B and they're both, you know, sort of qualified equally, there's a lot of different things that we can kind of measure there. But if teacher A and teacher B are equal except for teacher A is a native speaker and teacher B isn't, if our marketplace suggests that teacher A is going to be more successful, we'll probably choose them over B. Now, doesn't often come down to that choice. I will say usually the choice comes down to this person is not qualified, or this person did not fill out their application correctly. You know, there's usually some bigger issue that tends to make the decision rather than a finite detail. 99% of decisions are made because, like, oh, this person didn't follow the directions that we've given them when applying to be a teacher. That tends to be one of the biggest deciding factors, because that tends to happen the most. Is like, hey, we want your video this way so it looks right on the site, and you didn't do that. So you need to reapply, you need to fix it, you didn't follow the directions properly. People, you know, they apply to be professional teachers, which means that you have a certificate in teaching your language. They apply to do that, but then they don't provide a certificate. It's like, well, you need to follow the directions. Now we do, you know, obviously people can, and you know, Susanna may know this as well. I don't know Susanna's hiring process, but people can reapply, so they can have a second chance to try things again. But I would say, yeah, like a big criteria is like, can you follow directions and apply? That tends to be where most people lose their way. But there are other things too. And I will say, guys, you know, like, I think this kind of comes up, you know, in Trustpilot and other places where feedback happens. Italki is learning and growing along with everyone else. Our systems become more sophisticated. You know, our understanding of language becomes more sophisticated. So what we look for in teachers grows and learns as well. You know, even the processes, you know, to become a teacher grow and change as well. And we're always kind of looking to build better processes and things like that, which is a lot of what our team, my team, focuses on, is how to make these processes better, how to make sure that people are, you know, like I said, successful. So that's what our team is all about. Some of that comes down to, like, does our application process make sense? And does it do the job that it's meant to do? Does teaching experience count? When hiring someone, it's usually not a deciding factor. I've never actually seen it where it was like, oh, well, this person has 3 years experience and this person has 2 years experience. It's usually not a factor. And I would say that experience doesn't always reflect skill and quality. I've seen teachers who have had many, many, many years of experience, but then they're also sort of stuck in their ways. And it used to get this a lot where, you know, we have teachers, when everyone sort of switched and started coming online to teach, there was a lot of teachers who were offline teachers. You know, they were classroom teachers, and they had 20 years of experience in the classroom, and then they're trying to come online, and all that experience sort of goes out the window, because online environment's a very different place. And so, you know, some people struggled really with, like, adapting and things. So my feeling anyway, and our team, is experience doesn't always necessarily relate to teaching skill or teaching ability. Sometimes it's like you know, different thing. Seems like number of Italki lesson experience versus real life experience is very, it seems like Italki number of lesson experience versus real life experience is very different. Yeah, sorry, Jim, I would
I'm just saying that, like, it seems like, okay, maybe like I'm a new teacher, right? Or maybe like I'm a very experienced teacher, like, and I have 10 years of experience offline. But when I come to italki, I don't have any lessons under my belt on my teacher profile page. So essentially, I'm beginning on almost like as a new teacher, right? So I basically, it seems like I would need to spend some time to kind of build up my statistics on italki to kind of become that experienced teacher again, because my online profile and my real life profile, it's very different, because on italki, it seems like people are going to compare me against other teachers using the same metrics that italki has.
Mm. Yes, and that is actually very true. And sometimes there is a bit of a disconnect, guys, between, hey, I have 20 years of teaching experience, but on italki you are sort of a newbie, right? You're sort of a new teacher and you're brand new. And part of that, like I was kind of saying, that comes with, sometimes it's a switch to becoming an online teacher, and that's like a big part of that, in redesigning the way you teach, that it benefits the online environment as well. Like Jim is saying, like you do get compared to teachers, and we have teachers who, they've been with italki for a really long time, and they have 25,000 lessons taught on italki and things like that. I think that's the maximum right now. And you are in some ways sort of, being compared to that teacher in some way. Let's see, Susanna, do you plan to improve the italki rating system? And if your answer is yes, how do you plan on doing it? The answer is yes. As I said, Susanna, we are always looking to improve our processes. We are actually looking at how to improve our rating system. And I was literally in a meeting 2 days ago. I was in a meeting where we were discussing how that will potentially look, and what will the rating system be like, and how will students rate things, and how will teachers rate things, and how will those ratings play into a teacher's profile, and things like that. What I always kind of try to remind people is too, and this is just sort of a general thing, I think, Susanna, and not necessarily a comment on your question, is we do see these things going on, and we know we want to improve them, but we also have to like balance that and make sure that we really understand what we're trying to do, because there are 25,000 teachers and 7 million users who that's going to affect, right? So there's a large population, and we have to make sure that the changes we make benefit everyone. And this is, and I'm not saying, Susanna, you think this way, but sometimes we do get comments where people sort of are focused on themselves and their own situation, and they want this change because it will benefit themselves. And it's like, actually, like, italki's job is to make sure that these changes benefit everyone, right? And Susanna, your question, yes, we are going to change it, and we will look to make it better. We're working on that right now, and we're in sort of the development stage where we're kind of seeing, well, what might that look like, and we're arguing back and forth and doing all that kind of stuff. Let's see. Sorry if it was asked already. I'm already an italki teacher for French, but I would like to expand my other strong language. How do the evaluations work for multiple language teachers? Do you assess ability using their video? If I have 5 C2 languages, would the evaluators find that suspect and be unlikely to approve? So Jake, we actually will approve everything that's a C2 and above, but like you just mentioned, you do need to speak it in your video, and that is actually how we do it. We have native speakers who watch those videos and say, okay, here, Jake speaks French. Is his French good? Yeah, it is. Our French listener listens, and they're like, yeah, it is. Or it's like, oh, here he speaks Chinese. Is his Chinese good? Yes, it is. It sounds good. And that goes true for native speakers too. Just because someone chooses native doesn't mean we don't listen. We've had it in the case where we're like, wow, this teacher is a native speaker. I can think of one in Chinese. There was a native speaker in Chinese, and our Chinese listener listened, and they were like, she sounds really weird. Like her accent was really strange. She must have had some sort of like little like local village sort of accent, and we actually ended up declining her profile just because like our Chinese speaker was like, that is a very strange sort of speech pattern and accent, and there, you know, and for her too, like what she's going to find is her students aren't going to be satisfied with her lessons. So it's just it's benefits her. It's going to save her time and heartache, you know, heartache in the long run that she is not, you know, on the site. You know, she can figure out other ways to do things. Okay, cool. I want to teach 2 languages. Can I choose to teach grammar vocab in one language and prefer just to do conversation practice in another? You can, Linda, but do keep in mind, like the way italki is set up, you can't be a professional teacher, like a certified teacher in one language and a community tutor in another. So if you want to be a community tutor in 2 different languages, for sure. And if you want to offer different styles of class in one language or the other, you're actually able in italki to customize the lesson offerings that you have. So like in one language, you can say, hey, this is going to be a vocabulary and grammar class. And in the other language, you can kind of be like, hey, this is just a conversation class. You can for sure do that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Because I have a certificate that I can teach any language. Like it says English, but underneath it says like it can be fixed to any language because it's not English fixed. That's why
Okay.
I was.
So it's like a teaching license sort of.
Yeah, it's teaching license. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. That's why I was confused when I applied to Turkish and English, because like I teach English, I know how to teach, but for Turkish, like I don't really want to dive into Turkish grammar because it's not as basic as English. That's
Yeah,
why.
fair enough.
Yeah, that's why. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, how can a community tutor who teaches 2 languages become a professional teacher in the conditions where she owns a certificate for teaching English, but then the other language, which is their native language, there are no certificates. So Anna Maria, the best way to sort of do that is if you, like, especially if you've been teaching like for a school, you just, like, this is what a lot of teachers do when their particular language just doesn't have a certification. Italki also accepts experience. So if you can prove with like a signed letter or something like that from an institution that says, hey, I've been teaching this language for 2 years, then Italki will accept that in place of a certificate. So like if you have an English certificate and, oh, you don't say, but if you have an English certificate and then you also are a native speaker of, I don't know, Tagalog, Tagalog doesn't have a certification board. So what you can do is say, hey, but I have been teaching Tagalog for 2 years. This is the school. They signed a letter saying I've taught there for 2 years. Italki will accept that as your proof of certification, in that they'll let you be a professional teacher in both languages.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. When working on improvements like Susanna mentioned, do you also look after best practices on completing platforms? I mean, Tim, a lot of things are proprietary, so not, just Italki has things that are sort of Italki secrets, and so do our competitors. But as much as we are able to view and see things, we do. It's a pretty common practice amongst the industry to sort of look at what everyone's doing. So within that, yeah, like with Susanna in the lesson review, can we look at our competitors and see, how are lessons reviewed on them? Yeah, we can see a fair bit. And they can see ours, and they'll look at ours, and we'll look at theirs, and we'll see, oh, that works over there. But I think the important thing to and this is what we always consider, is like, well, that's working over there, but that doesn't mean that they're not also working to improve that. And how can we, improve it and take it even another step further and things like that too. So we're not, it's never good practice to just copy what someone else is doing, but it's like, oh, see what they're doing? there's some ideas there that we could look at and see if we can apply them to our specific situation and improve them within our system as well. So that's a pretty common practice in I would say almost every industry. There's benchmarking is what it's called, and you're just looking at your competitors and seeing what they do. Um, Completely new with italki, aka haven't used it. All right, no worries, Marco. That said, how do teachers teach? Do you provide a plan, materials? What do you provide besides the platform, aka students, money, etc.? About the teaching process per se. We actually don't provide, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, Marco, but no worries. We actually don't provide plans and materials because the idea for us is that teachers can individualize their offerings. And we really try to keep it as open, and the feeling sort of is if I give you a plan, if I give you materials, that's easy for a teacher, and we understand that. And a lot of teachers do, like, hey, I would love plans and I would love materials and stuff like that. But we feel like that also sort of limits the creativity, and you know, there's a real risk of just everybody teaches the same, and we feel the power of our marketplace of italki is in the individuality of our users. So students are individuals who have individual ideas and needs, and our teachers are individuals who have individual ideas and needs, and it's them coming together and finding the best match. That's where the real power is for us. And so by providing materials, we take a little bit of that power away. That being said, you know, we are developing tools. We actually, I'll give you guys a little secret. It's supposed to launch later today, hopefully. But like, we have like these new flashcards, and to get everyone started, like italki created the first sets of flashcards, and the idea is like students can use those flashcards as, you know, as online flashcards and to review and things like that. But the other idea is like teachers will be able to create their own sets of flashcards, and teachers will be able to share their sets with other teachers to use and share their sets with students to use and things like that. So our goal is to try to empower you guys, in teachers, in their creativity and their ability to customize their things. Great, let's keep going.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I was just wondering, where can we find these flashcards?
They should be launched today. So our company releases an updated version to the App Store. They are on the mobile app currently. So if you download the italki app, our company is releasing the app today, but that does also get sometimes delayed because obviously Apple Store and other stores, they have to kind of look at the coding and make sure the coding is okay before they release the update. So it might be another day or two until the actual release happens.
Clear.
That's just, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, and Tim, you sort of answered Marco's down there too, but it's very dependent on the teachers. After each lesson on italki platform is requested for a rating, what action is in place to take connection action on the feedback most of the time? Connection is really poor and it seems futile responding with nothing. It is done. One, like I would say, it's a good little lesson for everyone too. One, I don't know how to speak Igbo, but I'm gonna attempt it. Onye Nikuzi, which means teacher.
Onye Nkuzi.
Nice, thank you. I have never learned Igbo, but yes. So one thing to keep in mind is, and I say this actually to everyone, if you're giving feedback on italki, it's documented. I look at, teacher success looks at, product team looks at, everyone looks at feedback a lot. However, once again, there are about 8 million users on italki. We don't have time to like respond to every piece of feedback. And so it's sort of collected and being like, wow, like, and I will also say, sometimes it takes, like you're talking about connection quality of like maybe the classroom or something. Sometimes it's not a matter of just like going in and clicking a few buttons or something like that. Sometimes it's like, wow, to fix the connection quality, we're gonna have to spend a month recoding this piece of how the classroom works in order to improve connection quality. And so it's like, it can like actually, even though it seems like something that might be sort of simple, sometimes the solution is not simple at all. And so it's not that no one heard, and it's not even that no one's working on it. It's that like they're working on it and it's just like takes time and it takes, you know, and sometimes like I tell people, it's like sometimes when you change code over here, you didn't realize it, but it affects something over here. And then you think you're fixing connection quality, but then like this doesn't work anymore, and then you have to go back and figure out why it doesn't work anymore. And so there is a lot of that that has to kind of happen with computers and things like that. Cool, let me kind of, but yes, we do hear the feedback. It's just sometimes it's a process to get it all taken care of, and we have 8 million people giving us feedback, and sometimes it is like, well, these 3 million people are saying this and these 2 million people are saying that. There's only so many of us and there's only so much we can do. Which one do we choose to do first? You know, it can come down to that as well. Yeah, let's keep going. So there's community on italki. Yes, there is a community on italki. They'll help out with lots of different things. Highly recommend, if you guys have never been on italki, you can go check out the community. There are people on the community who are just random folks who are looking for language partners if you're interested in things like that. There's teachers on there answering questions. There's students on there looking for practice partners. There's people, hey, I have this homework and I don't understand it, and they help with that and stuff too. Cool. Is there age restriction? Teachers need to be 18 or older. That's you have to be an adult to be a teacher.
Sorry. No, it's more focused on the students. So if I become a teacher, should I take whatever student pays my fee? I mean, like at 3 years old or 4 years old, or this kind of student?
If you want children,
that also matters, I guess. Sorry.
If you want to teach children, you can teach children. To set up an italki account, you have to be 18. But what parents will do is they will set up an account, but the account is, for their child to learn a language. And so they will, hey, I'm John and I set up an account and I'm looking for a Spanish teacher. But, I'll message the teacher and be like, hey, this is a Spanish lesson for my, 10-year-old who's learning Spanish. And, if I want to teach kids, like there's a kids category on italki, you can select that as a lesson category. And so people looking for lessons for children can find that category and find the teachers that they want. If you don't want to teach kids, like you just don't have a kids category, you can not have a kids lesson, and kids aren't probably going to book your lessons. I would say most users, if they're like a parent and they're looking for a teacher, they'll mention, like when they request a lesson, when they ask a teacher, they'll be like, hey, this is for my 5-year-old, or this is for my 10-year-old kid. But it's up to the teachers. I know different platforms sort of work differently, but at italki, like we want to give as much power to the teacher to develop and design their business. Teachers can accept or decline lesson requests. It's up to them. We don't say you have to have this lesson, you have to have that lesson. If you don't want to teach kids and a kid requests a lesson, decline the lesson request. If you don't want to teach adults and adult requests a lesson, decline the adults. Like it doesn't really matter for us. It's your business. It's the power's in your hands. It's what you want to do, and we try to help you do it the best we can. Well, italki consider lowering the cost of using the platform for teachers. I put my prices at a rate that I find reasonable for students pay, but the percentage taken out of my pay makes earnings too low to live off. However, I am concerned that if I increase my price, I will also have fewer students. Jake, I understand that's pretty tricky. We try to provide some guidance and things like that on that. I will say, I think last time I checked, we take. I'm not sure if we're the least amount anymore. We might still be the least amount, but we're one of the lowest. Like our commission fee is one of the lowest of any of the platforms. I don't think we have plans to go lower right now. I'll be honest with you. We don't have plans to go higher either, but like we don't have plans to go lower right now. We will soon have the option to leave our audio message at the italki community by using PC, not mobile. Yeah, so Susanna, to kind of talk, we were kind of talking about this a little bit before. The way development sort of works here at italki, I'll give you a little sneak peek onto the inside. Things tend to get launched on the app because it's actually easier to develop. And then once we sort of get it launched on there and we get things working on there, then we go back and make it available on the website. So it should hopefully, things like that will hopefully like fairly soon, get integrated back onto the actual website as well. But yeah, I don't pretend to understand it. I'm not, like I said, my background is in education, not in, software and coding. I don't pretend to understand it. I just know that that's how it tends to work here is like the mobile app stuff happens first, and then like they go back and do the website stuff for it afterwards. A lot of times that's, like I said, because I think it's easier to publish in the mobile app, and then they can kind of test out, like, do people even like this thing? They do. Okay, now we'll make sure it's available on the website too. Yeah, so Edmund, italki, our commission is actually what we call it. So what we do is we take a 15% commission off of your lesson. So whatever you set your lesson price as, we take 15%, and it's just like a percentage of the class fee. Yeah. And yeah, Edmund, it is 15%. Yeah, I haven't benchmarked it in a while, but that's what it is. And cool. We got to the end of our questions here, but no worries, guys. Yeah, keep the questions coming if you're interested. I don't pretend to know everything, but I do know some things. The vocabulary thing should be pretty cool. I'm excited for it. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot, guys. Good thing I looked at my a note here. So really quick, I will answer that question as well. But really quick, guys, if you're not aware, the Polygon Conference, because obviously italki is like a big sponsor of this conference. We're running like a free credit giveaway in the community. So if you go into the community on italki and you mention like the Polygon Conference and things like that, you can potentially win some like free italki credits, take some lessons on italki and things like that. Any super discount for us to try the platform as students? There you go. Yep. So if you go over to the community and you start talking about the Polygon Conference, you can get some credits as well, guys. This is something italki teachers will know if you've never been on the site. We do trial lessons. They're not free, but most teachers once again set their trial lesson price. But a lot of teachers set their trial lesson price very, very low. So if you're looking to, try out italki, definitely come over, talk about us in the community, talk about the conference in the community, and go from there. Nice. If an italki teacher gives a super interesting and nice lesson on italki Mercury planet. Well, Susanna, we have been trying to give you guys a little bit of incentive. You know, we paying for the teachers who are on italki Mercury to do that for us. So that comes straight out of italki's wallet. That's part of our sponsorship, and something we were happy to do for the Polygon Conference was to you know, have, you know, a budget to kind of give some teachers some money to participate on the italki Mercury University. Oh yeah, I would have to look at the schedule. I don't have the teacher schedule in front of me. It will say on the program. So like if you go over to the Polygon Conference and you look at the program, like mine says right now, like John, you know, teacher manager AMA, and it's like italki Mercury room 1. It'll say 1 or 2. We just have the 2 rooms this year. So yeah. Are there any pieces of
no,
advice?
sir. Hi, John. I was just trying to clarify. It's Mercury, not Mars.
Yes, yeah, italki's Mercury, not Mars.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think last year was Mars, I think.
Okay. I don't remember what it was last year, but
Awesome.
it's Mercury this year. That I can tell you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let's see. Are there any pieces of advice you can give to potential teachers who have no prior teaching experience but have developed clear ideas on their ideal lessons? Yeah, so as teachers, as potential teachers, I would say try to focus on like who you envision yourself wanting to teach, and also be open to discovering that. If you haven't taught before, or if you've taught limitedly before, or you know, if you've never taught online before, online teaching and offline teaching are I've done both, and they're very different concepts. And but I would say think about who you want to teach and what skills that sort of person is going to want. And what I mean is, like, if you want to teach children, think about the skills that a child's teacher would potentially need. And you can do research and you can kind of figure things out. And same, like, if I want to teach adults, what skills do I need? And maybe, and this is, you know, where you can get really specific, like, maybe I want to teach adults and I'm really interested in data analysis. I'll use it as an example. Then what skills would a data analysis language teacher need? You know, maybe like I already have the data analysis thing. Like, you know, we have lots of teachers on italki who, you know, they have professions outside of teaching, and they want to bring that passion that they have for their profession into their language classes. And so you want to think about, like, well, how do I bring that passion in? Can I offer language classes around data analysis? Can I offer class, you know, and we do have teachers who very successfully do things like that. And it's like, yeah, this is not a class on how to do data analysis. This is a class on how to talk about in German data analysis. You know, how do I discuss these topics? How do I discuss this idea, my profession in this language? And there are some very successful teachers with that. Like I said, my background is in biology and in particular natural sciences. And like when I used to teach more, I would do natural science English classes. So we're going to talk about these topics in English, and I'm going to teach you words that you're going to need to know and things that you're going to want to understand when you're talking to a native English speaker about these topics. So I would start with something like that, and then where your passion is where you're going to find your students. And you know, that's part of the power of italki, is if I'm passionate about something, then I'm going to find the students who are passionate about it too. And once we connect, that's where the magic happens. Now that being said, like, you know, we can do a general English class too and have a great time, but you know, where your passion is where you're going to find, and that's really Yeah. And then as far as like no prior experience, once again, I have found cases and I've worked with a lot of teachers. I started 15 years ago as a teacher and, quickly sort of was like, oh, well, you're good at this. Become the manager of teachers, which is sort of how I got started on this path to italki. And I've worked with several hundred teachers face to face at this point. I've worked with several thousand teachers online at this point, and I work with italki, which we have about 25,000 teachers. So I've worked with teachers on various different levels over the course of my career, and I have never seen experience can lead to good teaching for sure, but experience is not necessarily an indication of poor teaching. So a lack of experience doesn't mean a teacher is going to be bad. I've seen people come straight out of their teaching course, whether that's a TEFL or whether that's a teaching like degree or something like that. I've seen them come straight out of those things and be great teachers and just like have the passion for it and have the understanding and like be almost intuitive in their level of being able to teach. And like I said, I've seen teachers with years and years of experience who struggle with adapting and fitting student needs and things like that. So experience doesn't always equate good teaching. No experience doesn't always equate bad teaching. So I wouldn't necessarily be worried about something like that. Cool. Can you tell us what is the general profile of teachers? Which languages have more teachers? Which languages are most in demand by students? Just curious. Most teachers, most demand is definitely English. Can say that without any data in front of me. It's just that's the nature of, I think, language learning worldwide. English is sort of king as far as language learning is concerned. The most teachers we have at italki is definitely going to be English. The most lessons completed, the most lessons requested by students is definitely going to be English. I would say probably it would be Spanish and French after that would be my guess. Those two, Spanish and French, sometimes flip-flop.
Sorry? No, my video, okay. I didn't put any. No, but when I'm teaching, I'll put mine on.
Oh, I don't think.
But now I'm just listening to. Try.
Can I? I'm just gonna go ahead and mute her for a second. Sorry, I thought she was asking a question for a second. Sometimes French and Spanish sort of flip-flops here and there as far as demand and number of teachers. Russian's another fairly popular one. German is fairly popular. I would say English, Spanish, French, German, Russian, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Portuguese is another kind of up there in the top 10. I'm probably forgetting one. I would say
Italian,
those are like
maybe?
Italian maybe too. I think Italian sometimes. Oh, that's what it is. Italian and believe it or not, Tagalog. I don't know why Tagalog, guys. I don't speak Tagalog. Tagalog, by the way, if you're not familiar, it's the native language of the Philippines. But yeah, like those Italian and Tagalog tend to kind of switch for the 10th spot. But yeah, those are kind of the top 10 languages, I would say. After that, the other languages are of various little levels, but those are definitely like the big guys. English by far is definitely the biggest one. When we look at, like I said, like number of teachers and number of lessons requested for teachers, definitely English is king. Chinese is, I forgot Chinese, or no, I mentioned Chinese, but Chinese is also up there a fair bit. Yeah, cool. The current practices are that teachers provide offer based on estimate time. They need to do this offline activity and also put a limit. Wait, yeah. Limit on quantity, especially because packages. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Did you see the question of Edmund before, of which I replied to?
I did not. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it got popped up by the other.
is it possible to sell a non-time specific service, for example, for instance, to get paid for reviewing a piece of writing for a student not linked to a time schedule? How can the student POOC pay for this?
I missed that question. Thank you very much, Tim. Yeah, some teachers actually do sort of do that in that what they'll do is they'll have, say, like a 30-minute time slot lesson type thing. But what you're actually doing, they will, there's flexibility and we're okay with it. It's like, it might be like, hey, like I will review your, it's like writing review or writing practice or something like that. And they will do something, I think, yeah, like, let's see, also put a limit on the quantity. Yeah, they'll do things like that. They'll say like, you can book this slot and I will review, 1,000 words or 2,000 words or something, or, I'll review this many pages, and you can book that slot and I will provide. And we do have, teachers who are, editors by profession and teach, who are, they're like, yeah, I worked as like I have my PhD in this and I'll review your doctorate thesis or something like that. We have people who do things like that. They usually just have like a lesson and it details that in the lesson. And then you as a student would book and pay for that lesson with the understanding that you may not even need to meet face to face. A lot of times, yeah, and then so like you'll pay, it's like, oh, this 30-minute lesson is actually like really expensive, but then you go and you look at the details and you're like, oh, it's because they're willing to review, a 5,000 word paper for me with suggestions in blah, 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 blah. And so it happens for sure.
Have you actually thought of ideas to separate these offline activities on the booking form from the online activities, so that teachers find maybe a more convenient way and will be more clear to the students that these handle about offline activities instead of online?
Right. So yeah, Tim, we have in some ways, and actually some of the recent projects we have been looking at for sure, some of the things that I'm working on currently, not just with like things like reviewing papers and stuff like that, but how do teachers, this is like basically the question we're asking is how do teachers earn money in other ways on italki than just giving a one-on-one lesson, a language lesson. And part of that is, as I mentioned kind of earlier, guys, we're looking at like, can teachers create, like right now, hey, can teachers create podcasts and sell them on italki? And we're experimenting with that right now. And can teachers create, materials for students and sell them on italki? And we're experimenting with that. And can teachers, that'll probably be one of the questions that comes up later on too, is like, okay, well, like now teachers can provide other types of service on italki. How do we, make sure, and part of, the question that always has to be answered is how do we ensure that teachers and students are satisfied and feel safe? That's the whole, people sometimes, and this is where sometimes teachers, not get confused, but they don't always understand, like italki is not just we bring in students, because we encourage teachers to go out and market themselves as well. Market yourself on Instagram, market yourself on Facebook, do some marketing for yourself as well. You are your business, market yourself. And then the question comes up, well, why do I want to market myself on italki? And then you guys are going to take a commission. Part of that commission is not just us running ad campaigns and partnering with Polygon conferences and things like that. Part of that commission is also providing a safe place for teachers and students to complete the lesson online, and part of that is like, we have a safety net, we have rules, And if rules are violated, you're booted off the system and things like that, to make sure that the students and the teachers have a safe and healthy experience in their lessons. And so, but then that needs to extend to, if I'm reviewing a paper, how do we ensure a safe and healthy experience for the teacher and the student in doing that transaction? So yes, as when there is a language that has a few teachers but might have demand like Finnish, says italki encourage users to become community tutors. Jake, let me start at the top of your questions, Jake. Adrian asked a good question. So there's some dialects that are underrepresented, marked as other within languages. So hard to find as a student. Is there going to be a change in how dialects are listed? I mean, as much as we possibly can, we try to get as specific as possible. What we tend to do is like, if something is other, it's usually, and some things are underrepresented as well at like, you know, as much as we would love to have, you know, 5,000, I don't know, maybe not Finnish. I think we do have a fair few Finnish teachers, maybe. But, you know, let's like, you know, what's a really, David won't mind me. As much as we would love to have 5,000 Welsh teachers, we just don't have that on the site. We have like one or two. You know, there are some languages out there, and this is the unfortunate part, and this is one of the reasons why we collaborate with the Polygon Conferences to, you know, try to preserve languages and things like that. Sometimes languages are underrepresented by teachers as well, and so we just kind of have to kind of put them in the other sort of category. Nice. Okay, guys. You know, with that, I mean, people who are users, if they're at a C2 level, they're always welcome to become tutors and things like that for sure. It's all about proficiency. Okay, guys. We have about 2 minutes left, and then I'm pretty sure someone's going to want this room for a language class. So I'll try to answer this one last question, guys, and then we'll we'll just kind of wrap it up from there so that the language lesson, I'm pretty sure this room has a language lesson here in a few minutes, so we don't want to get in their way too much. Student related, have you been thinking to put more flexibility in lesson durations that can be varied with 5 minutes? We are putting more flexibility in a teacher schedule so that teachers can open, teachers can set their schedule so that they have like 5-minute breaks in between, 15-minute breaks in between classes. Really, we just do the 30, 45, 60, 90. For teachers as well, it's easier for them to sort of set up lessons, and then it makes things a little bit more consistent. Yeah, we don't really have plans to go down to 5 minutes. Just the time management sort of starts getting crazy for everyone at that point. But yes. Thank you. All right, guys. Yeah, it is actually 6 p.m. and so I'm gonna duck out because, like I said, I do believe there's a class in here in the next minute or two, and I don't want to cut into any more time for them. So thank you guys for coming. It's been great to have a chance to see some faces. I usually sit behind a desk and look at numbers, so it's nice to see some smiling faces out there in the community. All right, guys. Bye-bye.